human perspective.
Welcome to Unbiased and on the Fence. I'm Shane. This is Paranormal Frequencies. Sherry, tell us about our wonderful guest.
We have Robert Bruce. He's internationally best-selling author of several groundbreaking books exploring such mysteries as the human energy body and its chakras, astral projection, the out-of-body experience, lucid dreaming, Kundalini, mind's eye vision, spiritual and psychic development, ascension, metaphysics, psychic security, spirit entities, and manifestation. He is a true spiritual pioneer of our times, dedicated to exploring the dynamics of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and paranormal. Robert Bruce is constantly testing the boundaries of the greater reality through his day to day life. Robert, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Oops, you're muted, Robert.
Sorry.
There we go. No problem.
Hey.
Hey, it caught on. So how are you? It's just so the audience knows, it's morning time for you. It's Tuesday morning in Australia there, so thank you so much for joining. I'm glad the time worked out for you. You're just starting your day anyway, so it actually worked out.
Yeah, you are helping me to avoid work. It's always great. Yeah, I love radio and TV. It's talking to people. I'm a real people person, so this is great. It's a real treat. I haven't had a show in, I don't know, a couple of months. So.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, you're in with a good group of people here, non-judgmental, that's just hungry for more information. And, I think, like I was saying just before we went on, a lot of people are, they don't realize how much is available right here and now without any kind of huge event happening. We have a whole bunch of stuff to explore with the out-of-body, with psychic abilities, things like that we can learn to develop the stuff now. And that's what you do. You do energy work and teach psychic abilities. And just to give us we had the bio there, but kind of tell us, what all you offer as far as, what you teach.
Apart from my book, if for your listeners, if you go to my website, astraldynamics.com,
Mm-hmm.
and register on the site in the top right hand corner for the newsletter thing, that gives you an account on the page. Everything's done through a web page now. And there is a free video program that teaches you how to do my system of energy work. Now, keep in mind, it's the most effective energy work system in the world ever, more effective than anything else. And I've taught it to 5-year-olds. It is that simple. Anybody can do it. And I've taught it to people. I think my record is 3 minutes.
That's what I wanted him to show everybody. It's so cool.
It's very, very, very simple. What it is, the energy work is to, you go back to the beginning here. A problem started 150 or so years ago when a lot of esoteric spiritual knowledge was brought from the East over into the West and translated into Western languages. Now, when it comes down to using words for how to move energy and how to actually do things, the only word in the English dictionary and other Western languages, German and Italian and that, the only word available was the word visualization. So they use that instead of the more complicated Eastern terminology, which if you are from an Eastern culture that speaks that language, the instructions are built into the description on how to do this. And so they take to it like a duck to water. They understand it. But in West, you shorten that to visualization, which is a visual word. Now, so today, a very long time later now, everything is visualize this and visualize that. Now, visualization is it's a very poor method for moving energy and for stimulating the human energy body and its chakras. Now, you will find in any group, and I've studied this for decades, like 40 odd years, and you go into any group that is doing some kind of energy work, and it's normally like visualizing balls of light going up the legs and visualizing little doors opening and closing in the chakras and things like that. And you'll find out of any group there, you'll find there's approximately 10% of people that get it, that when they visualize something, they're automatically, you could say, focusing on the body and employing the body's own kinesthetic abilities. The sense of touch is linked with their visualization. So when they feel a little door opening and visualize a little door opening and closing over the heart chakra, say, they're actually feeling that action in their sense of touch, in their body awareness as well. And therefore, that stimulation works for them. And they manage to activate that chakra and everything works well. But for 90% of the group, for varying degrees of this, that doesn't work. They're not, by visualizing something, they're not connecting with their kinesthetic senses, tactile senses. And it's even worse, probably half the group can't do it at all. Nothing happens. They try and visualize it, and because they've been taught that visualization is a visual ability. Therefore, that when you visualize something in your mind's eye, they believe that you have to actually see it. So if you're visualizing a tree, you would see a tree with green leaves and some kind of background on the ground. Now, 10% of the group that have a little bit of clairvoyance do see what they visualize. And this includes all teachers, and they take it for granted that everybody else can do the same sort of thing, but they can't. 90% of people or more, 99% of people, if you visualize or imagine something in your mind's eye, you don't see anything. You close your eyes, it's just blackness. That's like 99% of the human race. But for 1 or 2% of people, when you close your eyes, it's not black. There are patterns and shapes and moving things. And if you visualize something, you actually see it. It's like a little TV screen in your mind, with varying degrees of clarity, verging from a vague image that's sort of like a mist shaped like a tree that you can see. You're seeing something, to a person with a bit more clairvoyance who sees a beautiful tree, green, beautiful blue sky and the earth and the grass and that's what they see. Now, these are all the teachers of this, teachers of groups, authors of books and things like that, making the assumption that other people can do this too. I discovered this 20 years ago. Now, I've always, when I close my eyes, I always see something. I've never seen blackness in my whole life. And during a group I was working with probably 15 years ago, this came up and the penny dropped with me and I realized this. And I went home and saw my elder sister, Jenny, who's also very clairvoyant and psychic. And I said, hey, Jenny, do you know that most people, when they close their eyes, they don't see anything. It's just black. And she said, what? That doesn't sound right. We just assumed that other people did the same thing. And this is what most, if not all, teachers and authors on these related topics here have done. They make the assumption that other people can do that, well, they can't. But so I rewrote the book on teaching these things based upon not visualization, I avoid that word, based upon imagination. Because whereas most people can't visualize as they believe they're supposed to, they can imagine or fantasize in great detail without actually seeing anything. Now you can imagine a person standing there in front of you, literally down to every hair on a person's head. It can be incredibly detailed, even with sights and sounds and taste and sense. Everything can be imagined beautifully. Now, this is closer to what the word visualization in this context means. So you imagine this. Now, if you start getting visuals, like in remote viewing, if you get visuals in remote viewing, they're put aside with a question mark next to them because they don't want visuals, because they know they're full of inaccuracies. They want non-visual impressions usually. And that's a whole another conversation there. But so you can imagine anything beautifully, and that is like what visualization is supposed to be. But if you explain this to any group of students, you see the looks on people's faces and the smiles appearing. Wow, as the penny drops, all of a sudden they can do it. Because I've spent a long time going around talking to individuals in groups, to find this out, because people won't often do it in a group setting, won't admit that they're visualization blind. They don't see anything. They're defective, and but in person they will admit that they can't see it, but they love coming along. They love the people, but they can't keep up with the exercises because visualization doesn't work for them. But once they know this, oh, imagine it, I can do that real easy. I'm really good at that. Everybody's good at that. Every child is good at this, particularly small children are wonderful at imagination. And once you start getting this, everybody's on the same page. Everybody can do the exercises and progress at the same rate. Now, if you add to this what I call body awareness, which is using your sense of touch, which is a very powerful sense, then you have a system like I have developed. I called it New Energy Ways, the use of body awareness, tactile imaging, where if you use this technique over the site of a major chakra, you will activate it. It's not iffy anymore. It gives real teeth. It's like trying to, rebuild a motorcycle in the complete darkness. It's like, crazy. You're trying to work out where the handlebars and that in the dark and where the tools are. But you turn the lights on and suddenly everybody can see, wow, there it is. There's the toolbox. Let's get to work. It's kind of like that. And it's wonderful. Now,
It,
the energy work is based upon the sense of touch. And as I say, a very simple exercise. If you hold up your, say, left hand like I'm doing here now, and if you wiggle your fingers a little bit and look away and focus on the sensation you're causing when you make fists and move your fingers around, you're causing a physical sensation there that you can feel. Okay? Now, if you hold your hand still and you feel with this hand, just feel the air around it, feel the temperature of the air, nothing else. Imagine that you are intensely awaiting the slightest gust of air or change in temperature. You're feeling the air temperature and movement with your hand. And just do that. Keep it relaxed, but feeling with it, sensing the temperature of the air. And after you do that for a few moments or a little bit longer, you'll feel that that hand starts to get a little bit heavier, and it feels a little bit, sort of a heaviness, a thickness about it. And if you keep doing this for a couple of minutes, feeling with that hand, you'll find the sensations in that hand will intensify and get stronger and stronger. And before you know it, you've got a buzzing, tingling, prickling. Your hand's coming alive with sensations because focusing your attention on a body part stimulates all the nerves in that body part. So in the case of your hand, you are stimulating all the nerves. There's millions of nerves there. And that extra activity causes these sensations. This is a physical sensation, a weird thing to do, but it's a understandable physical sensation that, you know, scientists can understand. I've discussed this with some professors of physiology and that. It's called is it called neuro? They had a name for it. It's basically nerve firing. You're causing the nerves to fire, and by continually doing it, by focusing on the body part. Oh, that's right. They called it pre-movement neurofiring,
Wow.
where the nerves charge up, ready for sudden movement. But you don't move it; it just stays there, so the feelings build up. Now, if you take this sensation here that you've just caused, and you say take the other hand and maybe you scratch a little bit in the center of your palm of your hand, causing a more intense localized sensation, and do this if you can. So you can feel where you're scratching it in the middle there. And you take your hand away, but memorize that sensation you're causing. And then start moving that sensation you cause through the hand, fingertips to wrist, fingertips to wrist. Move that feel through the hand. It's quite easy to do. As I said, I've taught this to 5-year-olds, even a couple of 3-year-olds. Fingertips to wrists, up and down through the hand, about half a second each way. Now you can look at it or not look at it. You can imagine there's little laser beams coming out of your other hands if you want to do this. But the main thing is to feel it moving.
I notice when I do it, my eyes go up and down. I like do it with
Yeah,
my.
that's an early thing that you'll find that goes away after a while, particularly when you're working on parts of your body you can't see, like if you're working on your back or something. But you'll find the sensations in your hand increase again, and they get stronger and stronger. Now stop that a second now, and get both hands and clap them together a couple of times. Thank you, thank you. I can't help it. It's a joke I've been telling for 20 years. But clap them together and make fists a couple of times there to cause residual sensations in both hands. Now put both hands out like I'm doing now, and without thinking about it, fingertips to wrist, move your body awareness, your sense of feel through both hands simultaneously. From fingertips to wrist, both hands simultaneously. You can look at it or not look at it.
My head wants
Fingertips,
to.
fingertips to wrist, about half a second each way. But you can vary that, make it faster or slower to whatever causes the most sensation. You keep doing this. Now, after some seconds of doing this, you'll notice more sensations in both hands. But if you keep doing this for like 5 minutes or so, you will find your hands can become even almost painful. The activity can be that strong. And if you do this on your feet as well, which is a later exercise, I've had people fall out of their chairs unable to walk by doing this because the sensations can be incredibly intense. This is particularly when you first start doing it, because what you're doing now, a lot of people listening to this now, if they're doing this exercise, they should be, they will notice just by working on the hands, they will notice a throbbing in their brow chakra, their crown chakra, maybe their heart chakra, because this is releasing a lot of blockages in your hands, and the hands are the major conduit into the upper chakras, you could say, through cosmic energy. And this releases those blockages and allows the energy to flood into your body. And the feet, of course, when we work on the feet later on, you'll find that is bound with earthly energies and that, and the same thing can happen. And you can get spontaneous chakra activations. Some people will feel this quite intensely. They might find their brow chakra is throbbing, like, quite noticeably at the moment. Well, I'll stop that now. That's just a demonstration exercise. But go to astraldynamics.com, register for the newsletter. It's the only way to get it. You can't just click on a link. We want your email address so we can send you an occasional newsletter, which
I
I
do
do.
have those links below too, by the way, just so people know. You can go right below the video and click it and go right to not only that website there, but also your Facebook and your YouTube channel. So
Oh, great. Yeah. But I have lots of videos on that out there. But and the book, of course, this system of energy work, which is body awareness, tactile imaging, is in all of my books. It's literally the cornerstone of everything I do because it makes everything work. This is the missing link that makes all the techniques you may have learned for anything work. Once you understand this, like a good example, if you go to a Qigong class, as Chinese energy work, also called Qigong or Qigong,
mhm.
if you go to an Iron Shirt Qigong class there, um, the first introductory exercise you get there, they will tell you um, if you keep doing these exercises we're teaching you for an hour a day for a year, in about a year's time, you'll start feeling serious energy. But now, if you spend 30 minutes learning this system and practicing it a little bit, how to focus your body awareness and move it around your body. If you learn that first and then you go along to a Qigong class, you will feel intensive energy in the first session because suddenly the Qigong or the Tai Chi works. Because once you learn how to connect to your sense of touch, your kinesthetic senses over your whole body, this connects you to the whole world of energy work. No matter what form or type you're trying to use, this is the missing link. If people are telling you to visualize this and visualize that, you're visualizing little balls in your chakras and things like that. Suddenly you're connecting to those chakras and you will be stimulating through that visualization because it's actually imagination plus body awareness, that makes everything work. That's the key ingredients of the missing link: imagination and body awareness, the sense of touch.
So it seems like most people get when, of course, we think the picture in our mind, the visualizing. You're seeing a picture in your mind, but what you're talking about is bringing in the imagination where it's a fuller experience. You're feeling it, maybe you're hearing it, smelling it. You're bringing in more of your senses, so it's more of a full experience than just seeing it in your head. Is that sort of where people go wrong? They just see it in their head instead of really bring in the feeling, really feel it moving around your body when you're imagining the balls of light. Is that sort of the idea of what you're saying, where people
It
fall
is.
short?
And these things here, they sound very, very basic. This is the stuff like it's the first 30 seconds of any lecture, for 101 on these sort of things there.
Mm-hmm.
It's glossed over, and a lot of assumptions are made that you're understanding what I'm saying because everybody knows what this means. But I'm telling you, nobody does unless you've read my work. Then you'll understand the problem here. And of course, this started a couple of hundred years ago, and through what I call the propagation of error, guess what? Writers today are still using books written 150 years ago as source material. So the error has propagated all the way down the line. This is like science, and why science is so intensively researching and rechecking its results to try and uncover any mistakes it's made. And you need to do that rigorous process so that something doesn't slip in and just become a part of science, even though it doesn't work or it's wrong.
Right.
It's exactly the same with this. But once you understand this, everything works. It's like if you see anything in your mind's eye when you close your eyes and visualize something or imagine it, if you see anything at all there, even a vague movement like in a dark mist, some shape movement there, that means you have a modicum of clairvoyance and mind's eye vision. That's a different thing. Now, what I'm saying here does not mean that all those magicians out there that work very, very hard at developing visualization, I'm not disagreeing with their exercises and instructions there because learning that level of visualization, which is actual visual visualization in the mind's eye, is a more advanced clairvoyant ability. The word visualization just doesn't cut it there anymore. And they are basically developing clairvoyance, which is a very, very different thing to just simple imagination. Whether you see something or not, everybody can do the same thing.
I have a question. I know whenever I meditate, I see like this, it's blue and sometimes purple, this little like blob. And when I keep meditating, it like spins and there's green with it, kind of like a yin yang, but it's not formed that perfectly, but it's like that. And it's like purple and green.
And it's
What?
sort of just moving around like
Yeah,
a flame, real slow. Because I always wonder if that's what they're talking about when they talk about the violet flame, if it's that, because I see that same thing where I get the purple and the green into my field of vision. And I even while I was getting Reiki healing, it was almost like I was in the middle of a torus field. And so it appeared from my point of view like I'm going through this tunnel, but it was really like I was sitting in the middle of a toroidal field, and those colors were spinning around the toroidal field, giving me the sensation of movement forward. But it was really that same. It was more organized than I normally see if I just close my eyes and I begin to take note of the shapes that you're talking about.
You're describing a partial astral projection there, or
yep.
the beginnings
Really?
of an astral projection. The moving through the tunnel thing and the feeling of movement
Mm.
is typically when the third eye, the brow chakra, is involved in that. But back to the original question, the blue blob that you see. If you should Google this in classic spiritual literature through yoga and things like that. People that really understand Buddhist style meditation, for example, look up the blue pearl. It's a well known phenomena of meditation. It's called the blue pearl. Now, I have some thoughts on that. What I think you're seeing, if you when you see the blue pearl, is you're actually seeing a portal into the fifth astral dimension. If you look at the rear cover of my book, Astral Dynamics, and you see the grid lines, it's like a checkerboard layout with the
Yeah.
same pattern repeated in every square to infinity in all directions. That is the surface skin of the fifth astral plane. That's why I put it on the rear cover. As an artist's impression, obviously I didn't take a photograph of it. Cameras today, they're really beautiful, but not quite up to that. But that's what it looks like. And that I believe is a portal, because sometimes when you are like meditating or close to an astral projection, this will happen to some people occasionally. They think they're waking up, they're opening their astral eyes still in their body, and they look around the room and they see this blue vortex. It's the same thing in a different context, floating in front of them. And then I get these emails from people saying, I'm doing these exercises trying to have an OBE, but I've got this scary blue portal in my bedroom. What do I do? Well, basically, if you jump into that portal, it will transport you to the fifth astral plane, which is a fairly high astral plane. Um, and the astral planes are kind of linked to the different chakras, with the highest level of the astral planes probably being the violet of the um, and they come down. As they come down, the first, second, and third astral planes are very, very basic. It's like desert and scrub, not much happening there until you get to the fourth astral plane, where you get literally billions of people running around. That's where most people go when they sleep. And whenever anybody sleeps, whenever any animal, dogs, cats, fish, everything, astral projects whenever they sleep. And so you have an enormous amount of beings in the astral planes. And typically they go to the third and fourth astral dimensions. And the fourth astral dimension, most of it is like a gigantic shopping mall, with like millions of people rushing around here, and they're all excited. Usually big sales going on everywhere, and everything's like free, and everyone's really happy. And they're very unconscious people there. But the fifth astral plane is a lot more spiritual and a much more interesting place to be.
I was wanting you to tell them about, you were talking about like spherical vision, sort of, and like you can come out and everything can look reversed. Because I've had that happen before. Like when it's
Oh,
almost
right,
like
yeah.
you, yeah.
Yeah, well, when you're out of body, um, you are actually a point of consciousness with no real size when you leave your body. But you perceive yourself as having a body when you're in the astral. We call it the astral body. And in reality, there's only really a point of consciousness, like a little dot. That's you. And you don't have physical eyes in the astral or out of body because you don't have the limitations of the physical body having two eyes with a 200, I think it's 220, 240-degree field of vision. You could literally have spherical vision. You can see in all directions simultaneously. And I call it spherical vision. I experienced it many times. And it's kind of like a big fisheye lens that takes in the whole room around you, including the ceiling and the floor. And but that phenomena shows you a bit of the nature of the astral body being a point of consciousness. And why would it be limited to a field of vision of 220 degrees of frontal vision? Why would it have to turn around to see behind itself? And a lot of people find this happens. They're in an astral projection, say maybe astral projecting in their own house, and they go to move across their living room, and then they decide to turn around and go back the other way. But instead of actually turning around like you would do in a physical body, they suddenly just start going the other way, and they basically reverse their field of view from frontal to rear without actually moving. And so when they turn around, they find everything is back to front. The door's on the wrong side of the house, the
Mhm.
kitchen's in the wrong place. And if you do that a few times, you'll find the house that you're in that you may be familiar with, it's like chaos. There's doors and windows in wrong places all over the place. And the mind, the mind that we use there, it seems that at some point it just gives up trying to keep track of all these things and it just basically jumbles up. And
Mm.
this is a part of the reason why, if you observe anything during an astral projection for longer than like a second, you will find that whatever you're looking at is affected by you observing it, and will morph into something else. It will change shape. It will move. It'll turn into a blob. You look at a beautiful bunch of flowers, and it turns into a loaf of bread, and then it turns into a wheelbarrow, and it just keeps going on because you're in a world that is an illusion, a very subtle, malleable illusion. Now, keep in mind here, there is no real difference between the illusion, what I say, of the that is the astral dimension and the physical dimension that we think is really rock solid.
Mhm.
It's not. This is just as fluid and as an illusion as the astral dimension is. And this is a part of how what you call the Mandela effect about reality shifting. And reality, you'll find, is like infinitely flexible, um, as compared to what we think it is, being rock solid. And this is why sometimes you talk about reality shifts occurring and things are slightly different. Movies, songs that you know well, the words are different. That's interesting, but I've been using this for decades as a form of manifestation for healing because it has a lot of healing and self healing because what I do if I'm working with a patient that has maybe, let's say they're crippled in a wheelchair and they've been that way for many, many years, and I'm giving them healing, yes, typical energy healing and prayers and that, yeah, but I'm also trying to manifest for them a shift in reality. And I've experienced this myself many, many, many times, where you go from, you have a crippling condition where your spine is so damaged it won't work, you're in a wheelchair, and then suddenly you get up out of that wheelchair and you're really stiff and bruised and that, and you go see the doctor and he says, oh yeah, blah blah, things are slightly different, your x-rays are slightly different, the damage wasn't as severe as you thought it was. Or you've got a health problem, let's say you're suffering, this is a recent case of mine, you've got congenital heart congestion, where you've got excess fluid around the heart, it's difficult to breathe, affecting the breathing. You've got edema and peripheral edema, your legs are swollen like tree trunks and that, and you think, oh God, I'm dying, you know, and you go to the doctors and get loaded up with drugs and things like that. But then you stop and you come and see me, and I start working on a reality shift for that condition. I'm not a doctor, I don't give medical advice. But then the person suddenly has a bit of a reality shift, and they suddenly realize, oh, I've read something on the internet, and we all know you have to be very careful when you pick up stuff off the internet to thoroughly research it in case you make an assumption and kill yourself with that assumption. This person who thought they were about to die, and they probably were going to die as well, you know, a year before they'd read some on the internet that bicarb soda is really, really good for you. And it is, if you take the right amount, which is a very small amount each day. And they think, oh, that's good. I'll take a teaspoon a day mixed in water. They're taking a teaspoon. So over a year, they've gone through like a kilo, a couple of pounds of bicarb soda. And then they start getting swollen feet and ankles and legs and heart problems and that. And a little reality shift there, and then they suddenly realize, what if it's a bicarb? So they stop taking the bicarb and they cut down on their salt. And within a week, all the congestion goes away, their legs return to normal size, and the swelling goes away. Because bicarb soda is very much like salt. You're taking an intensive quantity of salt into your body, which is causing your tissues of your body to retain an enormous amount of fluid. It puts your blood sugar, your blood pressure through the roof. So you get very high blood pressure. So just by realizing that you have, or you probably shouldn't take that much bicarb of soda, you can throw most of your medications out after a time. You didn't need them. You'll find you're actually quite healthy. Minus the bicarb, you're healthy.
Yeah.
So, I guess you kind of touched on the Mandela effect a little bit. Let me see, it's kind of echoing through there. There we go. You touched on what a lot of people experience as the Mandela effect, where they notice things in reality are a little bit different. But you're talking about more taking a proactive role into actually manifesting a shift or causing a shift. How do you go about? Is that an intention sort of thing, or an energy work sort of thing?
Well, I use intention. Yeah, many years ago I discovered the most powerful tool that we have to affect change is affirmations. Now, affirmations need to be, for best effect, spoken aloud. A spoken affirmation is literally 100 times more powerful than a silent one where you just say it in your head. Now, because when you speak the words, you vibrate the voice box to create the sounds. And as you vibrate the voice box, you stimulate the throat chakra, which is keenly connected with the astral level. And you broadcast your words onto the astral level. Now, your higher self, aka God, the closest part of that great being connected to you, is a lot more receptive and proactive on the astral level. So you're getting a much, much clearer communication with this being, which is a much, much greater version of you. So this is how it works. And this is why historically religious, magical, chanting, whether you're in witchcraft or magic or religions, there is some form of chanting going on where people deepen their voice and you go om mani padme om, and they go to particular efforts to deepen the voice to make the throat chakra vibrate. If you put your finger into the little V at the base of your neck there, you can touch the windpipe gently, and if you're talking, you can feel the vibrations there
Yeah.
as you say some words there. Now, if you deepen your voice a little bit, you can make that vibrate more consistently. So if you go like as opposed to play with the tones until you get a good vibration there. That's the perfect note tone to use for affirmations. And if you're saying, for example, like, I am rich beyond my wildest dreams, I use affirmations and manifestation. All this fits together. The Mandela effect, manifestation, affirmations, it all works together. We're talking about the same dog, just from different angles. You're standing to the left, I'm on the right, someone's behind, see more of the tail than we do. We're all looking at the same thing and different ways to tweak this and use this mysterious thing, of which the human race knows about 1% of. You know, and what we do know is mainly comes from observations and accidental, experiences where we've done things. I mean, I repair my car using affirmations. I do. It's like I've done it for many, many years. I've got an old four-wheel drive there. It gets the best mileage on the planet. The tires never wear out. If something breaks like that, years ago, the fuel gauge broke, and I was jumping a creek and went down a gully, big bang, and fuel gauge stopped working. I had it checked out for auto electrician, needed replacing, didn't have the time, and then one night, a couple of years after that happened, I pulled in the driveway and I get this idea pops into my head, which is a little nudge from your higher self. You just get an idea to do something. So I looked at that fuel gauge and I started affirming deeply, my fuel gauge is perfect. My fuel gauge works perfectly. Now, I also know the layout of the car. I used to be a mechanic of sorts. So I'm visualizing the gauge, how it works, the wiring, where it connects to the sender unit in the tank. And that I said, this fuel gauge is connected to the sender unit in the tank, and things like that. And I did this for like 5 minutes, maybe less, quite intensively. And then I stopped, got out of the car, went inside, and had dinner. Now, I came out the next morning, jumped in my car, fuel gauge works perfectly.
Wow.
It never stopped. So this is just one of the things I did. Then, tyres are getting a bit worn. I think, oh, I've got to get some new tyres, four-wheel drive, expensive and that. And so I did some affirmations. My tyres are perfect. They have deep treads and blah. A few weeks go by, I look at the tyres again, bit of dust on them, and check them out. Actually, they're pretty good. They're actually like a full quarter-inch of tread there. Hey, I must have been seeing things. All these little shifts. Because not only is reality, you think about the multiverse, like this reality, what we call the physical dimension, and there being like infinite numbers of this, each slightly different. There is that. I'm not denying that that is a possibility. But I've also seen there are pocket realities around every person. Every person has a pocket reality around them as well. So this what we're talking about there, which is infinitely complex, is even more complex. Infinitely complex times infinity. So you've now got not just every human being, every animal, every living being has this little pocket reality around them, which can be manipulated to bring you good luck, bad luck. If you're an animal hunting, it's the difference between whether you catch a dinner or whether you starve to death or something like that. This is a very complex system. It's equally as complex as what goes on inside your own skin. at the cellular level and below.
I
It
find
is
the more you believe in
fantastic.
it, the better it works too.
Sorry, miss
The
that.
more you believe in it and see it work, the better it works.
Yeah, definitely. Now, beliefs are one thing. Now, most beliefs, if they are not based on any personal experience, you really have to work them. And this is why when you first start manifesting that first cup of coffee or that telephone call you're trying to manifest, we start with little things and why it's so important. When one of those works, you get a little few grains of proof that the process works. And then you build on that, trying to get that ounce of personal experience, which will make bigger things work. And everybody has to start at the beginning. You can't just bang your hands on the table. I believe, I believe, I believe. This is not like a religion where you're trying to believe in something which is completely outside your personal experience. You need a little bit of personal experience. I mean, otherwise, everybody, when you start manifesting, we all feel silly. We feel stupid. This is childish. This is wishful thinking. We got lots of names for it. But when it starts to work, you slowly change your opinion of that, but something also changes inside of you, which allows more of that to happen. It's like we've got this huge filter block which locks us into physical reality. And in order to break out of that, we've got a toothpick and we have to chipping away at it with a toothpick to get out of this. And then, of course, when you get further down the track, you get big experiences happen which take away like an entire brick from your prison, which breaks us out of this, what we perceive to be a very linear, hard reality. Even Einstein said this. He said, when you look at reality to what it really is, it is a very solid and durable illusion. Because when you go down to the building blocks of matter and you look at atoms, protons, electrons, and all of that, you find there is no actual physical matter there. These are just electrical and gravitational forces. There's no actual physical matter, which means that physical matter does not really exist. It is an illusion. The entire universe is made up of electrical forces, energy. It's all made of energy. Solid matter is energy that is not in an energetic state. That's E equals mc squared. I think it says that energy equals matter that is at the speed of light. I think I may be misquoting it there. But so matter is energy that is not at the speed of light.
Um, that wait, oh I'm sorry. That remember your that little thing that you said I had did that about your belief systems where you like have a basket. I can't say it good like
Oh,
you, but I love that. If you could tell him
oh, you
that,
read
it
it
would.
great. Yeah, that is what you're talking about there is called the catch basket concept.
Yes.
That is the cornerstone of my beliefs. That's the cornerstone of the protocols. Everything that I do must abide by the catch basket concept. And this has to do with everything I've been talking to you about here today so far. It is how to interact with your higher self, aka God, whatever else you want to call it. It's how to interact with this and to take some control of your reality. But more importantly, it's also topical news wise. It has a lot to do with fake information, fake news, being able to discern what is real. Now, when you are dealing with spiritual, metaphysical ideals and principles and practices, it's very, very difficult to discern what is real and what is imaginary and what is just fake. Someone just made it up. I mean, there are a lot of very talented schizophrenics out there that really believe what they're doing, but they are fully full on delusional schizophrenic. And some of these people are authors and writers and people in the field, contributing to this, but they're completely delusional. Now, the only way we have to eliminate the possibility of that coming in, like science, is through personal experience. So everything that I do is based and say is based upon my own personal experience. If I talk about ETs and UFOs, for example, that comes from personal experience. I have a lot of personal experience in that area. But, when it comes to Kundalini and chakras and that, I've worked intensively most of my life working with these things, astral projection, things like that. And I find the more I felt myself with practical experience, my own practical experience, and build upon that. And I'm very carefully looking for errors creeping in and things coming in that I don't have personal experience with. And I had a conversation with my higher self, my holy guardian angel, I don't know, a master. When these things turn up, they don't have name tags. And you don't get to speak. You know, it's like the little boy at the bus stop, as I said earlier. You know, were we on the air then?
Oh,
Yes,
I
We
was just trying
were.
to think that. I'm like, were we on the air when that's what I was
No,
wondering.
I don't
no, we
know. Maybe you
weren't.
could tell that story.
It's like when you meet an advanced spirit being of any kind, they have a strong non-interference pact. They generally keep away from us. But it's like that. The analogy I use. Just imagine you decide to catch the bus to work or to the store one day instead of taking a car or walking. You go to the bus stop and you're waiting for the bus there, and a little kid standing there next to you, about 7 years old, you know, and you look over at the kid and you notice the kid's shoelaces are undone and you think, oh, in this traffic, that kid's going to have a nasty accident with those long shoelaces of those sneakers. And so, being a nice person, you say, hey, kid, your shoelaces are undone. You know, give him a tip. But you can tell, being an experienced adult, by the guilty look on that kid's face, he doesn't know how to tie his shoelaces. So, being a nice person, you say, come here, you kneel down, tie the shoelaces in a nice double bow. There you go. Get up, pat the kid on the head, jump on the bus, never see the kid again. It was just in passing. And this is what a lot of interactions between spirits, particularly advanced spirits, masters, angels, and the like, this is what it's like. And I've had many interactions with these beings. You meet them, if you encounter them, they give instruction and they move on. They will not sit around and chit chat. Never.
It's
Not in
not
my
like they've been
experience.
following you your whole life or anything like that.
No,
Like,
well, not in my life experience anyway.
yeah.
This doesn't happen, but there is an enormous number of deceiving spirits out there, very close to the earth plane there. Some of them are very knowledgeable, very eloquent, who love to sit and chat with us. And, they would chat all day. You ask them a simple question, you get a 10-page reply. It's like that. Now, there's a lot of them, but the real important spirits, the advanced spirits, they won't sit around and chit chat. And I have talked to many spirits through their respective mediums, channel beings. And channeling is very real, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced it myself. I stay right away from it because it's way too much like possession for my liking, and I've been demonically possessed. So it's like I have a bit of a phobia there. It's like encountering Jaws in the water once there and then going swimming again. It's I don't think I'll go swimming today.
Right.
It turns you off a bit, yeah. But I've questioned a lot of spirits like that, and I find the truth of the situation is in the minutiae. And in all cases, I live in hope that I'll find more. But in all cases, I find when you get to a certain level, after maybe a couple of weeks of interactions, and I'm like a very kindly public prosecutor, very polite, very kind, very respectful, and very nice. But I'm writing down, recording everything you say. And when I start asking questions, and showing all the contradictions in it, because it's very hard to keep a lie going consistently in the long term. You find there's little errors, and this is what the police and lawyers and that do. They pick apart your story, looking for little inconsistencies and things, and then politely asking about those inconsistencies. Now, you get to a certain point there, every single one of these spirits has broken contact with me and demanded that their medium break contact with me and delete every correspondence. Every single one so far. I live in hope that I'll come across some more genuine spirits willing to communicate. But they always fall back on I get an example of this, the so-called rule that spirits follow, that they are not allowed to discuss anything that human being hasn't discovered already themselves. We're not allowed to, be too much interference. But now I say the truth is in the minutiae. So I ask spirits, okay, well, how many people need to know something before you can discuss it? One, two, 10, 100, how many? In how many different countries? And they start getting very, very unstable at this point, because according to the lateral law of what they've said, we're not allowed to discuss anything that humankind has not already discovered. One person, that means humankind has discovered this. They should be able to talk about it. But, being magnanimous here, how many people need to know about something? And in every single case, I find my knowledge of metaphysics and spirituality is far superior to all these spirits.
Wow.
And it's more provable, down to earth, logical, based on personal experience, as opposed to being based upon beliefs.
So that's what this basket, this cornerstone that you're talking about?
Yeah, the catch basket concept's an article. I'll send you another copy after, unless you've already got it, after this. It's a PDF. It's several pages. But this describes the experience when I encountered my higher self. And classically, I've been led to believe this is something that happens once in a lifetime, where your higher self slash guardian angel, whatever you want to call it, contacts you and you have a long conversation. And this conversation, was a few hours in length. Well, conversation, this period of instruction is a better way. I was standing up wide awake, with the lights on in my front room, about to begin my evening meditation about 9 p.m. My wife and children were in bed, and it was my time, quiet again. And before I turned the light out, this voice spoke very clearly, a deep, beautiful, masculine voice. And I noticed as it started speaking, and the first thing it said, Robert, it's about time we had a long talk. And I'm going, care, blah, blah, blah. And it kept on talking. Now, as it was talking, I felt the mastoid bone, the curved bone behind your ear. I put my finger into that, my fingernail into that, was vibrating quite strongly and modulated with the voice. Now, the gland under the ear as well, carotid gland, I think it is, carotid gland, yeah, the one that swells up when you get sick, that was also vibrating. That was the center of the vibration there going into the bone. And with the vibration modulated to the voice, and that was producing a very clear voice in my eardrum. I could hear it absolutely clearly.
Wow.
And this is very much like, if you ever heard of the Sony bone phone, there is a type of cell phone you can get designed for very noisy environments, where you don't put it to your ear, you actually press it into the middle of your forehead, and the sound, instead of through a speaker, goes through a plate at the head of the phone, through the bones and into your ears, and you can hear perfectly whatever's your customer saying on the phone there, without putting it to your ear. There are phones out there you can buy. They've been available for many years. Just Google the Sony bone phone, and you will see pictures of it being used. They probably still sell them. And but so it was like that. It was a very, very real voice. And I've actually to cut a long story short, I sat down and received instruction from this great being for several hours. And the end result of that was, I mean, the first thing he told me, I call it he because it was sounded male to me. And he said, Robert, the reason you can't get any further in your exploration of the universe is you're blinding yourself with your own beliefs. You still believe in Father Christmas and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy, and all those things are getting in the way. Nothing worked if you include the things that you believe in that are not based on personal experience. So instructed me to go through my belief system, things that I believe, and basically make a big list of all the things you believe in, and then make another list of the things you believe in that you have actual personal experience with. So you go from one, which is hopelessly long, to a page with about 10 items on it. You know, it's like UFOs are real. I've seen many, many UFOs. You know, things like that. Your astral projection is real. I've done it countless times. You know, there's about 10 things there.
Mm-hmm.
And based upon that and building upon those and shutting everything out, as I developed a system whereby I those 10 items there go into my core belief. My core beliefs held close to my chest. I say they're in my heart, my core beliefs. Now, in my left hand, I have another list, and this list I call probabilities, things which are probably true, but I don't have enough personal experience to take it into my core beliefs. And the final list is over here. This is possibilities. Things I believe that are possible, but I don't have enough information or experience to move it into the probable list or my core beliefs. I mean, Bigfoot's out in here, you know, and other things I haven't seen. I have no experience with Bigfoot, but I think it's very possible. There's a lot of information out there that says Bigfoot probably exists, but I don't have any experience there, so I can't put it in my core beliefs. I can't choose to believe that and say
Right.
that's in my core belief. But a lot of people do, and that really screws them up. In the long term, when you start taking these erroneous beliefs in, you know, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, lots of other things in there, and you find that your whole conception of the greater reality and spiritual reality gets crazy confusing. But when you get down to personal experience, you may not have much personal experience to start with, but you can get some, just a little bit. It's like trying to manifest something. You start by manifesting a cup of coffee. In this case here, you can start by learning how to move your energy through your body. That is personal experience. That is a very metaphysical thing because you can activate chakras, you're going to experience phenomena and all kinds of things. You know, you can have maybe some mind's eye visions, maybe some astral projections, some lucid dreaming. It's all looking at someone's auras, things like that. The book I'm currently working on at the moment is a mind's eye vision tutorial from the beginning with basically mind's eye vision, beginning with body awareness vision, which is how you can very easily see visually your own energy body. Anybody can do this. It's very, very simple. Just close your eyes. Try this now. Very, very
Okay.
simple. Okay. Close your eyes, but gaze with your eyes straight ahead. Put your hands out, akimbo. Put your arms out like that and your hands wide, your fingers wide there. Now, I just want you to rotate your wrists. Just rotate your wrists like this, both of them. Now, close your eyes and gaze straight ahead, and just be aware with your peripheral vision where your hands are moving. And you will notice after a few seconds, you can see something moving there. You get what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's weird.
There. How long did that take? 5 seconds?
Yeah.
I've just given you experience here. That is a level of mind's eye vision. Now, this is like probably the easiest. There's lots of senses apart from the common five senses here. Now, this is a level of mind's eye vision sight, you were seeing your body image. I call it body image sight there. You were seeing it moving. If you do this in bed, you'll find it gets even clearer because you relax. And then you start doing it with your feet. And then as you're moving, you start doing it with the rest of your body. And while you are doing this, say you're looking at your hands, you will get an occasional flash just for a millisecond. You will see your entire arm there, pink, skin colored, every hair on your head, just for a flash. You'll see, wow, I just saw it, and it comes and goes, just a little flash. And you'll see your feet just for a millisecond. Visually see it. And this is another level of sight, a mind's eye vision type of sight. So I start with that, and the next level up there, I'll teach you how to see the auras of colors. Get a bright blue, red, or green teapot or ball or something, put it about 10 feet from you. Look at it just to the side, unfocus your eyes, and within seconds, you'll start to see like an aura come out from that color, which is the opposite color. So if you're looking at a blue ball or big blue teapot, that's how I discovered this. You'll find a blue one has a yellow aura. This bright yellow, very thick aura comes out. Now, fair enough, this can be explained away by scientific theory. This is my theory, as a color depletion of rods and cones in the eyes. But that's just a theory. I have another theory. I have a theory that colors have auras. And regardless of that, the technique you use to see them and how the auras and colors appear is identical to how a human aura appears, a living aura. So if you learn the first technique, which anybody can do, to see the auras of colors, you've got personal experience with that. This affects your mind and what your mind is prepared to accept. Now, if you can see these auras, it's a very small step to seeing a human aura. And going progressively like this, then we start, mind's eye vision and other visions and things like that, which can be spectacular. I like a nice progressive approach that everybody can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking your ear off here.
No, that's great.
No, you're great. I have a question though, really quick. Okay, I'm echoing. I don't know how to fix this. Okay, I'm still asking. Say you're like attempting to have an out of body experience, and I mean, I've had the tunnel thing happen. I've actually went places and all that, but another thing that happens to me is I can be like laying in bed, and well, I'm gonna say two things. One is like my feet like can like start floating up, and then I'm like stuck like that. Or I'll like float up in the air and I feel like I'm like really like blown up like a balloon. Like my body feels like that.
Yeah.
What do you do right there? It's almost like a stuck place, like I'm like, oh, here I am blown up like a balloon in the corner.
What you're describing, mate, are early symptoms of astral projection. It's a very valuable personal experience you're having. You're having experience out now. When you first start coming out of body, it's almost like you're brand new and you're very, very, very delicate. None of your muscles have developed yet, and you float out like a balloon, and you may even float to the floor and find yourself rolling on the floor and all the dust and whatever that's there. But you've got no power to move. These are early symptoms, early astral projections. They are astral projections. If you keep doing it, you will find over a period of time they will get stronger, and you will start to gain the ability to move and do other things. You've just got to stick to it. There's nothing. You're not doing anything wrong. This is like your first drawing. This the first pen and paper that people you've ever seen in your life, and you make your first drawing, and you do a stick person and a stick dog. It's not very good. You think, oh, it's terrible, but it's something. You've actually done a drawing. But if you practice that every day, you will find that stick man and dog you've got there over a period of time will start looking more and more and more lifelike and have more power And if you do that for years, you will find all of a sudden you've got these beautiful art that people want to photograph and put in magazines. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you gain experience by doing, and this is the only way to do it. There is no shortcut. What does help if you do affirmations when you're having an experience like that, you make an affirmation. Now, if you're having an astral projection type experience, you can't speak verbally, so just say it in your head there. Say, I astral project. I love to astral project. You've got to get it across to your higher self that you want this, because we have a lot of filters on us to filter out subtle environments, so that, I mean, we can't normally see spirit beings. Your eyes don't accept them. You will find they're actually picked up by the brain, but we don't see them because we have a lot of filters there blocking the astral worlds off from us, so that we can focus our full attention here and now where we need to be focused, so we can live our lives. I mean, it might sound cool if you could see spirits and things like that, but what if you couldn't turn it off?
Be distracting, wouldn't
We have a name. There was a name for that, a technical term for that. It's called schizophrenia,
Hmm.
and it is. Now, most schizophrenics that I know that have imagery and that like that and voices there, they're hearing very real voices. They're seeing very real images. It's like it's not imagination. I've seen scientific studies where they've had schizophrenics in functional MRI tubes, and they have literally identified the areas of the brain, the audio pathways of the brain, which light up when they hear a real noise, like where a scientist rings a bell. But when the when the patient hears a disembodied voice or noise, the same audio pathways in the brain light up. It's identical. So the scientists say that, for all intents and purposes, this person is actually hearing those noises and voices. They're not imaginary. They're actually hearing them. So most people don't understand that. They think it's just imaginary, but it's not imaginary. They actually hear them.
Yeah,
That's
I
exactly what
actually
I've thought too. Sorry.
I work somewhere at a mental place, and the people, I believe what they tell me, and that's why they like me a lot. The patients, because I do believe them.
Yeah, you're open-minded. If you read up on voices and schizophrenia, you will find you hear a lot about the bad voices, which probably accounts for at least like 80% of schizophrenics. They have bad voices, childish voices, nasty voices, misleading voices. But there was a small percentage, it's like, no, 10, 20% of schizophrenics get very friendly, wise, beneficial voices. Voices that actually give them good advice and are very, very helpful. They are called, I think they call them the higher voices. There's a term for it there. But you don't hear much about that because it contradicts the medical science involved, because
Right.
medical science is saying this is all imaginary, this is all bullshit. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
it's your mental illness, even though they can't prove they're mentally ill, because they say, oh yeah, there's something wrong with the brain. No, there isn't. There is no mental illness can be explained away as there being chemical imbalances in the brain, because that has never ever been demonstrated through scientific testing. But you get all these chemicals to treat conditions that are supposed to exist, but there are no actual studies showing that chemical changes in the brain cause mental illnesses. Anyway, back to schizophrenia again. You don't hear much about the good voices because it kind of contradicts, because you're bringing in something like spiritual. These are like spirit beings, and they're kind of accurate and helpful, and they'll tell you what's in the next room, and that kind of goes against science, so you don't hear about it. It gets buried underneath on the bottom shelf. So
I just noticed when I talk to them, they'll tell me stuff that's like psychic. Like they'll tell me stuff, like about me. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
then and I love talking to them and just hear what all that they say. And I notice a lot of people that are close to death see spirits more of them. The more close they are to death, the more spirits they see.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting. But I did want to ask you this though: what what do you think exactly an orb is? Is it like a spirit being, or is it like, um, just like, is it consciousness of what would you say? Like an orb?
Well, okay, I have to say, most orbs are caused by dust and moisture particles in the
Yeah.
air, but not all of them. Because they can be created. You create a certain environment in a big old barn or something like that, and you can, with moisture and dust, bang the side of the shed, you can create millions of orbs.
Yeah.
But those are natural phenomena. Um, but there are certain orbs there which don't fit that at all, that are quite different. Orbs that have faces in it, not just faces, but the whole being is there, and lots of other strange and wonderful things, and they appear to be intelligent. They move differently, independently from random air movement. You know, there's something about them, and I think some of them are spirits, some of them are nature spirits. I've seen a lot of nature spirits in my time, and other beings. So a couple of sightings I've made over the years, which kind of fits into this. Some astral projectors, depending on how they project there, um, if an astral projector like this comes to see you, and if you had just a modicum of, sensitivity, you would see an orb, usually a white, creamy coloured sort of orb, the size of my double hands here, moving around. And when it gets close to you, if let's say it's me astral projecting, you would see my face clear as day.
Mhm.
You'd
It
know it was
seems like
me.
it's just the face part. Yeah.
Yeah. Now this is an astral projector becoming an orb, not intentionally. This is just how it is. And often when I have astral projecting visitors here, whether they're accidental, uh, benevolent, or malevolent, okay, I come under a lot of psychic attack doing what I do, but that's all going well. You will often see like black orbs around. They're usually the negative ones. And they normally move very, very fast through the house. And sometimes they're colourful, but interesting phenomenon with these types of orbs there. When they move through the room that you're in, you'll find they make a little bang on the wall, like a knock on the wall. And when it goes through the wall on one side, there's a little knock, and when they go through the other side, there's another knock. So it sort of goes. It sounds like it's happening in one. It'll get like boom boom, like one knock. So it's like a knock, and you hear what was that? But if you're observing it at the right time, you will see an orb come through one wall out the other in a split second, and that's what's causing the knock on the wall, or the little raps and things like that. And even and yeah, it can happen in anything. And it's usually an astral projector or a spirit passing through it. You get the little spirit orb type things. And
We
but that's about all I know about them. I'm one of the few people in this field who is not afraid to say I don't know. Most
we
people
have a
seem to
we
be
have a
afraid of
thing called we have something at our house that we call the knocker, because you'll just hear all the time, and like, especially if you're alone, it seems like, but that house is just something. That's all.
So you hear like two knocks close together.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it was one wall and another wall, the
Yeah,
way you said it, because it goes like,
yep.
yeah.
Exactly. Now, it may be in a corner of a room, and now it may be going through. The walls may be quite close together, but I've noticed this there on a number of occasions. As it moves through, it goes boom, boom, which means that the orb, the spirit orb there, is somehow interacting with the physical material of the wall. And if, as I believe through experience, the spirits have electromagnetic properties, it could be something to do with that. But I don't have enough information, but I know it happens. And it often sounds like you described, like knock, knock. As you say, you call it like someone's knocking on your door.
Yeah.
But often you'll hear one tap or two. Now, one tap means something's just entered the room or left the room. But if it passes through the entire room, then you get a double knock.
That's
That
so interesting.
that makes a lot
Maybe
of sense. Yeah.
if you have a door, now most internal doors are hollow. They're actually like two thin veneers, and it's got like cardboard in the middle there. If a spirit passes through one, they're passing through two panels very close together. That could also make a little knock knock sound.
Hmm. Let me ask you this. I know this is still connected, and I want to be respectful of your time. We're getting close to an hour and a half, but I definitely wanted to touch on the Kundalini because I think there's a lot of. If you could just sort of briefly touch on it, because I think some people have the idea that you raise the Kundalini, it's done forever, it's just a one-time event. But you actually offer techniques, proven techniques to do
Yeah.
this for anybody that's wanting to. And what are the benefits? Can you talk a little bit about the Kundalini
Well,
awakening?
I have a program on my website, astraldynamics.com. It's a paid for program. It's like 30 hours of video in it with me talking and teaching how to go about this. And I have a process for stimulating the energy body in a particular way, and you need to work at this, to gain experience. And it's like, for example, you like say you just suddenly decide you want to run a marathon, which is what, 26 miles. You can't just throw down your headset, run outside and run a marathon right now, can you? In like 3 hours. You can't do it. It's physically impossible. You have to train every day, maybe for a couple of years before you could even do something like the Boston Marathon, which is quite a light type marathon. It's like a half marathon. And if you want to get good times, of course, you've got to train for years and be very serious about it. It's like that. It's like that with this. Now, there are exceptions, people who are like naturals at this. They sit down and just accidentally cause a Kundalini rising inside of them. This has happened. There are people out there. Carl Jung, the famous transpersonal psychologist, had a major Kundalini experience. And a lot of people don't know he wrote very extensively about the chakras, about mandalas, um, and the human energy body, and that because he experienced that. And if you want his work on that, including the artwork he did, there's a book out there called The Red Book. It's a very large book. What's sitting behind me? Anyway, it was here. My wife moved it. It's enormous. It's like a massive encyclopedic tome. It'll cost you a couple $100 on the internet, but it contains all of his color plates and things like that, and the mandalas. And the mandalas, by the way, where they come from, I think there's a phenomenon when you raise Kundalini to a particular level where the crown chakra, which occupies the entire top of your head above the hairline, the crown chakra contains lots of little like fingers. They're like antenna. There's like 1,000 of them or more. I've never counted them, but they feel like as intimate a part of you as the fingers in your own hand, and you can actually move them just like you can move your fingers when this is active at that stage. Now, if you think of a concept, if you think of love or an emotion, or you think of a place, you think of something, these little antennae, you think of like a sea anemone. It gives you a close idea of what it looks and feels like. You think of something, these fingers move and they automatically form a geometric mandala on your crown of your head. Now, I don't know why this happens. I'm guessing here, but when you think of something else, if you think of a particular person, for example, they form a different mandala, and some of the little antenna at the front actually physically point to where that person is in the real world. I often thought that you could use that for triangulating someone's location uh, if you had two people doing this.
Like a portal.
Yeah, it's sort of like you could actually locate somebody. But yeah, that's what I thought you meant when you mentioned the Mandela effect. But Kundalini is something that this is a theory here based upon my personal experience with what Kundalini is. I think Kundalini is in our DNA because my experience and investigation of the world show that the human race, a very long, millions of years ago maybe, was created and probably using some existing hominids in the world today, maybe early humans or whatever. But I think that some ET DNA was mixed in with it to create the human race and possibly even reptilian DNA, because there is a reptilian species native to Earth that lives underground. I have had some interactions with them. This is based on personal experience, not something I've read somewhere. I've got to be careful how much information I give you here. I'll get myself shot. Yeah, literally. Um, there's a very large base not far from here, by the way, reptilian base. And I've multiple people, including myself, have seen their ships coming and going, which they're not exactly rarities. They have advanced cloaking technology. You could call it telepathic cloaking technology. You could be looking right at one of their ships, and what all you'll see something mundane. If there's one of their ships going down the road next to you, you might see a bus or a big truck going by slowly. Maybe it's something a bit weird about it, but it's just a truck. Or if there's a reptilian walking past you, you just see an ordinary person. You don't see them as a reptilian. They cloak themselves very, very effectively. And anyway, back to I think it's a possibility that they or someone like them put some of their DNA into the human race. And this is like some of the junk DNA that maybe wasn't supposed to be there. But this would explain why when you raise Kundalini by stimulating the chakras to a level where they strobe, which is like you think about like an electrical capacitor on a flash camera, where a capacitor builds up a charge to like millions of volts and then releases it in a millisecond, and you get an incredibly bright flash. Chakras have an ability which is similar to that. And for example, if you stimulate all the chakras and then you stimulate the base chakra most of all, that's the most important one to do. If you stimulate that enough to cause it to strobe, it will flash activate all the chakras above it, and then the Kundalini will rise. No mean feat to do that, but it can be done. I've been teaching this for many years, and a lot of my students will attest to that if you could find them. But yeah, Kundalini is a very real thing. But when Kundalini, which is like a snake, it feels like, imagine if a large snake as thick as a man's forearm forced its way, pushed its way through the perineum of your body, which is a flat area between your anus and genitals, pushed its way through that into your gut, and then 3.5 coils, snake, up through your torso cavity, and then up through the neck and out of the head, just like a snake, like a reptile. And then when it comes out of the head, it comes forward over the head down to the tip of the nose with like this big heavy V. It's like the hood of a cobra. Pardon me. And imagine if you've got like a 2-pound raw steak laying on your head with a corner of it coming down to your neck, because it feels weighty and thick and meaty when it comes down like that. And these are just some of the phenomena, but it's very reptilian type phenomena. Now, why human beings, we are mammals, and that, why would we have these reptilian activations within us? And I think, like, well, the reptilians that I know of are incredibly advanced. They're like thousands of years beyond us. And we live in a kind of a symbiotic relationship with them, where we don't know, well, most of us don't know they exist, and they seem to like it that way. And they seem to live underground because they like it really, really warm. The normal temperature on the surface is way too cold for them, I think. So it seems to be, but that's where I think it came from. But when you raise Kundalini, it releases a lot of things inside of you according to your natural inclinations. I mean, you will start to become very psychic, very clairvoyant. Lots of different psychic abilities will start to manifest through you. It also frees up, releases your creative genius. That's probably the biggest thing that Kundalini does, is to greatly turbocharging your creative genius, which is great if you happen to be a musician or an artist or something like that, or even a scientist. It will manifest through your through your main interests, whatever they are. That's how Kundalini would manifest. Now, if you do it a bit prematurely, or it happens accidentally prematurely, it can be a very rocky ride. There is a medical term out there called Kundalini psychosis, and it's very real. Yeah, I had a bit of myself when I first did it. When I first did it, I did it a couple of dozen times, and then it got so intense I had to take a break for about 2 to 3 years and not do anything, just to stabilize, because I realized, wow, this is it's very difficult to live in our society if you're right out there. You don't fit in. You'd have to live like as a hermit. You can't live around other people. Not to the fact that you become totally weird, but you also the energies of other people are really severely affecting you as well, because you're so sensitive. You're picking up everything from everybody around you. It's like really weird. So we need some of this filtering, which we naturally have, to allow us to function in, regular civilization.
So it's like an idea of trying to turn it on and off as you need it, because it can be a huge distraction to regular 3D life, if you will. But can it be beneficial to some of the other things we've been talking about? I mean, you mentioned it could help with psychic ability, but can it help with astral projection and out of body as well?
all of the above, all of
Mm-hmm.
the above, because when you activate Kundalini, and again, it's no small feat to do that. You take an enormous evolutionary step forward. You go from being a mundane human being to becoming an exceptional, gifted human being, and more than a human being. you become a lot more connected with this greater spiritual reality, and things going on around you. And how far can you go? I don't know. Um, Theoretically, you can also achieve physical immortality through the process, where you would never die. That is possible. Um, Now, how that goes, I will let you know in some years hence, or not, whether that
Well,
works or not.
so let me ask you this: it sounds like it would be a good first step if someone's ready for it. What's sort of the caveat to know if you're ready? You say it can be pretty disruptive to your life. So how would someone know
You
if they
need to be
want to do the technique?
you need to be a stable person. Now, if you are an unstable person, let's say you're suffering from anxiety and depression and things like that, general types of instabilities and that, you need to fix that first before you approach Kundalini, because otherwise you're going to really do a number on yourself. It's not really going to be good for you. You need to be stable, and you need to be really rooted, you know, in reality. A lot of people have come across, say, I do teach this, and I have a training course for this on astraldynamics.com. No prerequisites at all. Everything is there from the start to finish. As I said, it's about 30, 40 hours of video in a course. But a lot of people I've known over the years there have the impression they want to do that so they can fix themselves. You get people who are literally delusional schizophrenics that want to raise Kundalini so they can fix themselves. It's not going to work out too well. It's you're gonna blow your head up and end up living in an institution or under a bridge somewhere. That it's not good at all. Fix yourself first. You need to be very grounded, before you approach this. But if you're average grounded person, um, all you need to do is to learn and practice a bit of energy work. One thing I tell everybody, it's best to focus on lucid dreaming and astral projection. Something happens when you have a fully conscious exit out of your body in an astral projection, fully conscious exit and re-entry. That changes something big time in your spiritual metaphysical makeup. And if you can't astral project, um, don't, you know, you're not going to have any success with Kundalini unless you can. But the best way, start with lucid dreaming, learn how to do it, make the effort, and then go from lucid dreaming to astral projection. Even if you only ever have one real conscious astral projection, that's enough. And then you could approach Kundalini. For all of that, I'm not saying it's like hard or there's any limits here. This is just common sense.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, you wouldn't, if somebody's a bit unstable, you wouldn't want to sell them a bottle of liquor or a gun. You wouldn't want to. It's like, you're talking about raising Kundalini, which is probably the ultimate spiritual expression of a human being that they could ever possibly hope for. You need to be, just normal would do. Average, normal, you're not living on drugs and things like that or whatever, or you don't have big problems, Like if you're an alcoholic, it's like, probably a good idea if you, fix that first before you approach Kundalini. It's not a little thing, it's a very big thing. And when you first raise Kundalini to its full, you will have an initiation experience involving a group of masters and angels and things like this. Is a big deal. It's a
Yeah,
big
sounds like
time.
it.
It's big. I failed my first one. Yeah, my first experience. I'm injected out of body, and there's literally two. Cut a long story short, these three masters turned up, and each one looked at me because it was completely accidental. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I'm amazed I survived. And they looked at me and like tested me out, and each one said, nah. And the third one said, nah. And I'm thinking, oh God, I'm dead here. I'm so dead. And walked away. And then he stopped and shook his head and jumped down. And I'm out of my body. He put me over to my body and he showed me all the stuff that was wrong with it. I was just talking about. He said, you've got all this wrong with you. And you did this, you should be dead. He basically said, go back and fix that and come back and we'll take another look at you.
It's like you got the cart before the horse.
Yeah, I did. Well, when I did it, I had literally, I found about 2 pages on Kundalini in a very old book published in the 60s, one of my mother's books, some spiritual type book, New Age type thing. And I found a page or two about Kundalini in there. And at the time, I was battling some problems. I had some families that I knew had some really bad negative entity, demonic type problems. And I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't help these people, and I wanted the power to be able to help them. And I thought naively that this would give me the power I need, do this, and then I'd go back and fix those spooks. Didn't work out too well. Because 9 months later, through that process, I ended up becoming demonically possessed, and that happened as a result. I was giving healing to a 5-year-old child that was suffering full-blown possession. And at some point in this process, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just trying to give healing and get this thing out to heal the child. And at some point, I said, take me and leave the child. And it did. And literally. And wow, I suffered for that. But that led me down a long, scary road where my only, getting back to my roots here, where I came from, where I had to, in order to survive, physically survive, I had to connect with my higher self and the greater reality right now, today. Not next week, not in the years to come, right now, or I was going to die. And that led me on a journey where I ended up wandering in the wilderness and sleeping on the ground like an animal until one day I'm trying to allow myself to be guided, and I was led to a place and I was sleeping on the ground directly on top of an underground stream of water. And 2 days of that did it. It removed the entity from me. And this is where all of my practical countermeasures for helping yourself against these types of things started, because I realized that running water, I originally thought it was something magical, maybe the purity of the water, I don't know. But it was actually the electromagnetics involved. So sleeping on top of an underground stream of water, there's a lot of electromagnetic activity caused by the water moving through the earth. And an easier way of doing that is to buy some electrically earthed bed sheets and put them on your bed. But yeah, you don't get cold and attacked by insects and wild beasts and things like that. You lay in your own bed, electrically earthed does the same thing.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, wow, it's really gone fast. We're coming up on an hour and 45 minutes. Gosh, man, we got to have you back because we just barely, feels like we just scraped the surface, we just kind of touched on a bunch.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm just
do you have
giving
any
a
events or anything you'd like to talk about coming up? I know you said you have a book that you're working on. Or...
Yeah, I'm working on that, but that's going to be several months before. But this book is actually based on early work that I started 20 years ago, and my manager, Timothy, um, uh, over the years has browbeat me enough into going back into it and revising it and turning it into a book. And this will be produced as a hardback, which we will be selling through the website, and be the only way you'll be able to get it. Probably. And but yeah, I've got several books on the go apart from that, including a book I've been meaning to write for years called Kundalini Dynamics. If you're familiar with my first book, Astral Dynamics, that was my magnum opus and a bestseller in its own field. I think we sold about 200,000 copies of that since it was first released in '99. And it's in a second edition now, which means I revised it a lot. And yeah, but apart from that, we have on my website we have um, a video courses which I've been working on for many years now. I have one called Astral Projection Mastery. Again, it's 30 or 40 hours of video training you for astral projection. A lot of people like these. A lot of people don't like to read. But they want it audio visual and stuff. I have one called Manifestation and Self Healing, um, and another course. Then we have Defense Against the Dark Arts, which is about based on my book, which is about how to defend yourself and get rid of bad things and stuff. And of course, we have Raising Kundalini, which is kind of a flagship program.
Very nice.
I'll
So
probably
yeah, I'd
sure.
like to have you, excuse me, have you back when you have that book come out, and then that will give me time to check out this Raising Kundalini course because that sounds very, very exciting. Any word on like how many people have positive results, or how long it takes, or after they? I mean, is it something where they watch the videos and then you give them practical techniques to try out in practice? Like you said, it takes practice. You know.
It does. It's not something you can really quantify like that. I mean, it's not like you're running a course where people attend class every day and over a period of years you can kind of grade them and that. It doesn't work that way. There are
Right.
um, too many variables involved here. But given that you're talking about something which is about as close to ascension as you could possibly get, really, um, and still remain breathing, this is a hell of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like winning the Powerball lottery or whatever it is in a spiritual sense, because there's a big carrot dangling here, which immortality with a big question mark on it. Yeah. But for all that, people have a lot of successes in various forms because if you're trying for that, you may never get to raising your Kundalini, but you're going to learn an enormous amount along the way, and other things will appear. I've had a lot of people that go down the road, they go through the course, they start working at it, and then other doors open for them, and they go in a different direction. And but some people do, you know. But given what Kundalini is, that we actually have success, students is saying something. We probably get maybe a dozen people a year will succeed at that.
Very nice. Well, is there anything else you have for Robert before we go, Sherry?
Oh no, I just want to thank him for coming and try to get him to come back because he has so much stuff. Like I wanted to maybe talk about like ascension stuff or something, but maybe we can have him come back in about 2 or 3 months. That'd be
Oh
awesome.
yeah,
Sure, anytime, let me know. If you haven't read any of my books or seen any of my programs, neither of you,
I've seen your YouTube videos. She's right your book there. She's
yeah,
holding one
for
of them
my
up there.
courses.
Yeah, that was the first one, right? That's your first book
That
as
was
well.
my first. That's the first edition. The second edition is much much better.
Oh really? This is like a Bible to me. Like,
Yeah, well,
but this is a good book, y'all.
the second edition is way better
Really.
because I was actually teaching myself to write while I wrote that book, and I revised it in 1999, and I actually removed half of the pages without removing any content. I think I was a bit long-winded in the first edition, but if you get a copy of the second edition, you'll love it. But by the way, if you interested in a review of, I could give you review access to my programs.
That would
If
be
you,
awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Sign up on my website, say you've got a username there, and
Hmm.
email it to me there, and I can add the programs manually to you, so you can have a look through them. And
Yeah, that would be awesome because I'm sure it would be something that my viewers would like to hear about too. Yeah, because we're all on this journey together, trying to figure it out, and it's a lot of fun. When
I
you
love
realize.
sharing. Yeah, I
Well,
love sharing. There's nothing else really.
yeah,
Sharing, helping other people.
yeah, definitely. That's the world we're trying to work towards. So I really want to thank you for your time, Robert, and thank you for getting them on here, Sherry. It's been awesome, and can't wait to have you back. All of For those joining late, I do have all of Robert's links below, so you can go to the website he just mentioned with his programs, or you can follow him on his Facebook or the YouTube channel as well. So with that, I will thank you for your time, and we'll have you back as soon as possible. Really, thank you, Sherry.
It's been a pleasure.
Bye.
Ciao.
Lots of love and light to you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Peace. If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.